to A Glimpse of Growth with Dr. Dale. Last time this conversation was spicy, and this time ain't gonna be any different. And if you guys are seeing a glare, I'm gonna do this every now and then so you guys can see. Welcome back, you guys. Last time, this conversation is about motherhood and shift that occur in motherhood as it relates to leadership and how they all kind of bounce off of each other. They live in the same vicinity, they live inside of you. If you're out there, you're a mother of one, two, three, it doesn't matter. You are a leader. You're a leader of yourself first, and you're a leader of the ones that are coming behind you, and you're a leader of people. So last time we talked about those emotional shifts motherhood creates. But today we're going a little bit deeper. I mean, we were deep already, right, ladies? We were deep already, and we're going a little bit deeper. And I'm back here again with my amazing guests, Taralyn, Sasheen, and Dr. Chayla. So, you guys want to say hi? Just say hi.
Hello.
Hey.
Chayla. So, because motherhood is not just about love, it's also about responsibility, right? It's about
Mhm.
healing, it's about becoming aware, it's about communicating differently, it's about intentional leadership, right? Because whether we realize it or not, we have some unhealed parts. As a mother, as a leader, we have unhealed parts. And from a parenting standpoint, from a leadership standpoint, from relationship standpoint, and in the climate of it all, we are surrounded by people, right? And today's conversation is not about blaming you as a parent. It's not blaming you as a leader. It's coming from the point of view of awareness, right? Because emotional intelligence leadership, whether at home or at work, it requires accountability,
Mhm.
right? And accountability is not punishment, it is ownership. You guys agree?
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
So sometimes as a parent, the first conversation we're getting ready right into it so that way we can, take up as much of this time as possible. All about raising mini me's. There are parents out there that are raising someone. They made mistakes and they want to make sure their kids don't emulate those mistakes, and that's a good thing. But sometimes unconsciously we try to create mini version of ourselves as children, right? As grown-ups now. So wanting them to fix what we didn't, wanting them to become something that we couldn't, that we didn't, right? And but children are not extensions of our unfinished identities,
Hmm.
right? They are individuals. So my first question to you all is, have you ever caught yourself at some point wanting your child to become a version of you wished you were or did? Maybe not recently, maybe in the beginning, maybe you caught yourself somewhere along the way, or you caught
Uh,
someone else. I don't know.
well, I guess I'll start on this one. I struggle even now with like school, and I struggled kind of with some family members even that I was older than, and I was a very studious student. I liked school, right? So I was into school. I did all the curricular activities, and I find myself struggling with that because of my expectations versus the reality.
Yeah.
Especially, I believe if you have multiple kids, this is probably rings more because maybe you have a more studious one, or you have somebody that's not as studious, or you have somebody that's more sports oriented. So you have a lot of different things, but having being okay with your child being whatever grades that they're getting, whether they're getting good grades, bad grades. I grew up in a certain type of environment where we were expected to have great grades and we were talked about if we did not have them.
Right here.
So it was a topic of discussion in my family. And I'm not really raising my child in that same environment because I can see how it can be damaging because you're now in a space of perfectionism when that's not necessarily the case. Especially with the way that the education system is set up now and the how everything is so much more different than it was back many moons ago when I was in school. But I
Yeah.
do find myself kind of struggling, just even I think in general with the school situation, just the experience I had, and it's not the same. And being okay with wherever my child is
Yeah.
landing on the spectrum of, are they average, below average, above average, and their experience, and really trying to be a guide and a leader for them to just navigate and help them the best that they can through the hoops and ladders of the time that they're experiencing school. So it's like right now we're about to be out,
Yeah.
we're about to get out for the summer, and it's been a year, and next year is going to even be more pressure. So, I think it's an ongoing thing every school year because it's a different grade, different experience.
Yeah.
One of the things that I wasn't thinking about this, but I think that, when I go to parent teacher conferences, it's kind of like I feel like I'm getting a grade. I never
Hmm.
thought about this until you said it, because I'll be like,
Why?
listen, because I'm doing this 1, 2, 3 ABC, one of those today's. We're going through a
Yep.
list. Like, are we doing
Yep.
a good job or not, teacher? What
Yeah.
else do we need to do? Because that's that
Exactly.
perfectionist. I just thought about that. Like, I'm holding my breath. I'm nervous about parent teacher conference. Like, do you think I'm
Exactly.
a terrible parent? Are you guys? My friend, one of my best friends, she teaches first grade, and she's always like, "Girl, I can tell you who's gonna be a serial killer and who's gonna be the scientist in first grade." Because she's like, "You can see it." I'm like, "What do they see in my child?" You know what I mean? So I think that you're really right. What I was going to say before that came to my head was about, like, really just trying to teach my daughter about the why of things. My mom said, "You are hard headed because I didn't just accept, don't do it because I said so, because I'm your
Hmm.
mama, because I'm older, because you know what I mean, because you're a kid,
Right.
you need to shut up." You know what I mean? And so, like, really taking the time. My mom said, "You take a lot of time having a lot of conversations and helping her to understand, to build those critical thinking skills, so she's not just
Exactly.
not doing that because mama said so, but you understand why mama said that."
Exactly.
Mm, love
Exactly.
that.
I
Love
think for me, and I spoke to this, on the last podcast, that by the grace of God, he gave me a vision, right? I
that.
spoke
Mhm.
about how I was
Yeah, you mentioned
broken, I
that.
was divorced, single mom, what am I gonna do? And he spoke to me that I'm entrusting you with these four destinies. And so I went and I approached my parenting in that capacity.
Yeah.
And so for me, my message to my children was always, I was first trying to cite what their strengths were, what their gifts were, what their interests were, and lead them, train them in that way that they should go. Um, and I had the pressure, and I didn't want to put the pressure on them. You got to be a doctor, lawyer, Indian chief,
Hmm.
right? I
Mm,
felt
Right.
that pressure.
yeah.
Um,
That pressure's no joke.
It's not.
yeah, and so it was always, be the best whatever you want to be, because you know what, and also, as a young adult matriculating into the workforce, there were so many people that were miserable at work.
Oh
Who
my
wants
goodness.
to
Yeah.
wake up every morning miserable? And so, those are the types of things that were circulating in my mind. Let's identify what you really love and your passions, and we go for that. If you tell me you want to be a sanitation worker, guess what? Go that path. You're going to enjoy it. You're going to make money because you're going to take all the sanitation courses. You're going to excel, and you're going to be, because you enjoy that. You like
Hmm.
cleanliness, or what have you.
Hmm.
And you're going to wake up happy every day. I think that was always, my mindset. And so, I didn't necessarily struggle with the mini me syndrome.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you, as an emotionally intelligent parent today, how do you help your child to develop their own identity safely in a world today? Like, what are one, two, or three things that you help them to make sure that that they develop themselves from in a healthy identity with what the world is, to Shashin's point, with the school system and
Hmm.
peer pressure and AI and all the things. Like, how do
Right.
you, like, what is those two or three things? And I think, Shayla, you mentioned making sure that, yeah, speak a little bit about that, how you guys do it.
Well, going to Dr. Chayla's point, the why part about it, that's huge for me. It's kind of like, I've watched my son since he was born. You kind of know the personality, if you study them, you know what I mean? You
Yeah.
kind of gather where that personality is landing, and then as they interact with other children, and you can kind of see where their strengths and some things they
Mhm.
need to work on, and just look at them as a person. I've always looked at my son as a little person, just
Mhm.
not like a little person with his own personality,
Mm-hmm.
his own feelings, and I'm doing my best to try to meet him where he's at
Mm-hmm.
and explain the whys. And again, different way of growing up. These children are not, I mean, in art, in the generation of being able to be out until the lights come on, it's just not the way it was. It's not the way that, it's not
It
that
is
anymore. So
right.
but your child still needs to know how to navigate the streets. They still need to know how to get from point A to point B. And so having to, at whatever stage that they're ready, or you feel that they're ready, I think that that's important to recognize, because navigation and knowing how to do things to be self-sufficient, and understanding the whys behind them, as well as the dangers, you know what I mean? Because you can introduce them to just some of the more unsavory things in the world, but at the end of the day, once they get a certain age, they're going to make certain decisions, right? So
Mhm.
you may not agree
Right.
with that, but I think educating about what is going on out here, and not trying to gatekeep so much, or if they ask
Mm.
questions, especially if they're uncomfortable or their friends are doing things that are a little unsavory. I always tell my son, it's like, I'm not concerned about your friend. I mean, they're good people. Your friends are great. But I'm not as concerned about
I'm
what
not
they,
his
because
mom. I'm not their
what
mom.
they're doing is not what you need to be doing. Although y'all homies, I get all that. But we need to have a deeper discussion about that, so you understand the whys and how you need to be making decisions.
Mm.
I
Mm.
definitely agree with that. Even when I train, right, at work, I don't like to just demonstrate or say, hey, do A plus B and then we're going to get C. I want to give some context.
Mhm.
Along with that, it's not just for me teaching, it's modeling, because
Hmm.
where we
Mm.
fall off as parents a lot of times is inconsistency. We say, we want to be truthful, and then, your kid hears you on the phone lying about whatever, right?
True.
Um and
Tell him I'm not
so
home. Tell him I'm not home.
right. And it's like, you just told me I'm not supposed to lie, right? I
Yes.
called my mom out about Santa Claus, you know what I mean? Because can no man fly all around the world in one night and give everybody toys? So that was that, you know what I mean? And she just went with it. But I think a critical piece to parenting and sending those messages is what we model, because we do see inconsistencies. Even when we talk about from a spiritual standpoint, oftentimes, we often hear, okay, lay a spiritual foundation, go to church, go to Sunday school, but then there's inconsistencies there. And
Hmm.
so, whatever level you are in your spiritual maturity, be consistent.
Yeah. Love that.
I love what y'all said. I think the only thing I would add is I try to like be human. I
Hmm.
Mm.
feel like oftentimes like parents are supposed to be superheroes. We don't have emotions. We don't Our feelings don't get hurt. We don't have bad days or frustrations or disappointments. And I think like being human, like what you're saying, Taylor, and modeling what it feels like every day I don't feel very good. Every day I don't feel like skipping and making your bed. Every day I'm tired of
Hmm.
telling you, you know what I mean? So I get frustrated just like you. And so I just think like being that model, then showing them in real time, like I can what have fallacy, yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. It makes for them. I feel like then it solidifies in their heads, like, oh, this is what mommy's talking about, right?
Yep,
Right.
yep.
And I
Especially when you
think
have a cold. You know what
mhm,
I mean? But
I
go ahead.
think I think also like because I remember when I was matriculating into young adulthood, and like you say, it's like okay, everything my parents said was gold. Yep.
Mhm.
Right. But you're
Mhm.
coming into your own identity. You're coming into some understandings, and everything they said wasn't gold. Everything they said
Mm.
wasn't correct, even. Yeah. And so, if you, like you said, Dr. Taylor, if we, remain human and remain honest, and I've apologized to my children for certain That's decisions right. I've made.
Mhm.
I missed it. You know what I mean?
Love
And
that.
so then as they are coming into their own growth and development, I feel like it's easier for them to move into their own personal identity and not feel like, we're on some plateau or pedestal, if you will.
Right. Because you're the parent and because I said so.
Everything I
Mhm.
said, right.
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 And everything I
Many,
said is perfect,
Right.
exactly.
but I'm
Yeah.
carrying my baggage.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Many people grow up surviving environments they are now realizing that were emotionally unsafe.
Yep.
and survival shapes people differently.
Mhm.
Like, so when you have to survive an environment. So I want you guys to kind of speak a little bit, this is go bringing this into the workplace a little bit. Children
Mhm.
don't just, they don't just hear conflict, right? They observe it. Adults don't just see an issue with a two peers going on, or a manager screaming at another employee, or like injustices happen, unfairness, and all of the things that just create a hostile environment. People experience and see those things, and people think, leaders out there think that that doesn't get observed. It gets observed into the person emotional space, and how
Mhm.
they think they should show up. Like when I
Mhm.
first became a manager, I saw a manager kind of berating an employee, my first time manager, and I kind of, he didn't tell me, he didn't guide me and tell me how to do and what to do. When I first time became, I started doing the same thing, right? And
Mhm.
then I realized after, it was like, why did I don't like, I didn't like the feeling, and I was the manager. I could only imagine the employee.
Mhm.
So what does emotional safety actually look like at home or in the workplace, more so in the workplace?
Ooh, I can speak to that because I've seen so many scenarios where a lot of the issues are landing with leadership and how
Mm,
the style or the business culture, if you will, what is acceptable or not acceptable. And in home lives, you see that if you have peers or friends or, family members, even you go to their homes and their homes are different from your homes. Like how people while out at one house may not be the same, and
yeah,
and I think that transfers in work environments especially, but I also think that those cultures and that business is going to affect not only productivity and the delivery of said product or service, but that's also going to affect the end client. The client is now going to know that this is what's going
going
on
on.
in that, whatever they're experiencing. So it's one of those things that throughout all of my operations and my customer experience work, it is something I consistently see as the issue. The people issue of the business, which stems a lot of how people have experienced safety. What does safety look like? What does conflict look like? What does resolution look like? Does come from how they have experienced their lived experience living at home,
Hmm.
or how they have been raised, or how they are living in their own adulthood of the
Hmm.
environment or family that they've created. And it's work. It's a lot of work that needs to be done, especially when it's not good. You know what I mean? I think I've seen some good examples, but it's not always perfect. I don't think there's a perfect environment, but I think that there
No,
are better ones than one, than others.
100%.
Yeah.
I think that one of the things that I see happens if people don't feel safe is it stifles innovation. So
Mhm.
then
Mm,
people just continue to do the same old thing. Nobody corrects it, and nobody wants to stick their head up and say, "Hey, like I think there's a better way we could do this." And so then guess what? Because they're afraid if they're the nail and they stick their head up, they're gonna get the kibosh. And so I think that I see that all the time. That then they can't make any progress. They don't have innovation. Then guess what? They fall behind. They become the blockbuster, right, in their industry.
Exactly.
yes.
Not
Exactly. Mm.
For me, I feel like it kind of goes back to Dr. Dale. I think we had this conversation once before. Humility as a leader.
Yes.
I'm not the boss of everybody.
Mm,
I'm here to support us, to facilitate
yeah.
alignment so we can achieve
Yeah.
goals. And so I want to meet you where you are.
Mm,
I want to help you develop. I'm not trying to tear you down. I'm not trying to exalt myself above you. I'm not threatened by your success, because if you look good, then you just gonna make me look even
yeah.
better. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so when we're able to just put all those defenses down, and that pride and that ego down, and just collaborate, right?
Yeah.
It's just a healthier environment, and it's very interesting that we have this discussion, because like you say, Sasheen, I've
Oof.
seen both sides. I've seen both sides in one
Mhm.
organization,
Oh my goodness.
right?
Yep. Yep.
Um,
I'm sure we all
and
have.
so
Yeah.
I'm sure we all have.
and
And you can't, there's not one person that I have talked to, on all the people that I have met in my entire life, since started studying emotional intelligence in the past couple of years that have said I have never had a bad boss or never had experience with a a manager being poor leadership, providing poor, like I've never. Everybody has had a
Yeah.
taste
Yeah.
Yeah.
of a leader not providing the best of best, right? What
Yeah.
is the difference between discipline and fear from your perspective,
Mm.
from your experience? Discipline looks like this or feels like this. Fear is this.
Go go ahead, Carolyn.
I was just gonna say I speak about it. There's a chapter in my book, Discipline versus Correction.
Mm,
Mm.
And again it goes, we talked about the why behind the what. Why when my child or my team member has done something, poorly or ineffectively, yeah, I'm angry. But I need to settle and get back to the point of trying to help them learn from it versus I'm mad and I just want to get back at you or I want to release my emotions.
right. And you said angry, but you meant disappointed.
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 Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
angry is a whole different
That's a whole nother
ball game.
conversation.
Yeah. Dr. Chayla?
But yeah,
Or
go ahead.
Carolyn, were you still going to
No,
continue?
I'm pretty much. For me, like I said, it's the distinction of recognizing discipline versus
Yeah,
correction,
100%.
the punitive side versus the corrective
Mm-hmm.
side,
Mm. Mhm.
The
and making sure that
slapping
we
of the
stay in that
hands.
right. Make sure we stay in that corrective lane versus the punitive, and make sure that it's not about my emotions.
Mhm.
Mm, I love that.
That's a good point. I think that there's when I think of fear, it's the velvet glove over the iron fist. And
Mm,
it
I
is
love
if
that.
you don't
So
do
that
that,
analogy
because
is
it looks
amazing.
pretty a lot of times, especially in the work environment, it looks great.
Oh, please.
But if you don't do this way, like one of the things I've always had a challenge with is attendance, being on time at a certain time and being penalized because you are 5 minutes late.
Tell me
I
about
don't
it.
think that is I don't think that is a definition of success. I don't think that that's a definition of somebody's performance because people will show up every time on time and not do their job the entire time that they are at their job.
They will be
But
there.
because they are showing up on time, all of a sudden that's a factor. I think that is one of the silliest things. But it's that out of fear you are trying to get to work on time, right? You are
Yeah.
trying to take your time. That has nothing to do with doing the job or doing the thing correctly. And when it comes down to discipline, again, that's cadence, that's understanding of what needs to be happening. And if there is a mistake, like going back to coaching and the corrective action, and not coming from a space of fear, but discussion and going back to why we are doing it this way. Especially when you're dealing with change management or switching from one way of working to another. That is a really important factor, I think.
Love that. Dr. Chayla, you wanted to add anything? I think
Looks like she's having a tech
Hmm.
issue.
okay. We'll keep going, and when she comes back, then we'll see if she wanted to add anything.
Okay.
So the next conversation is doing your own work. One of the greatest leadership shifts when it comes to motherhood and leadership is realizing that love alone is not enough, right? Your self awareness matters, therapy, accountability, reflection, emotional regulation, to Terrellyn's point, and not lashing out when something happens, but really being intentional on how you want to present yourself as a leader. Because unhealed pain often rarely disappears quietly, right? It often spills over into our reaction and parenting and leadership and all the relationships and communication. So, how important is therapy, is healing, is having that emotional awareness as a parent and a leader?
It's essential to, I think, not only this, I think it's a self-care thing too, because if you're carrying around all the struggle buses and all the baggage, being a parent and being in spaces of leadership or management or whatever role that you have requires a way of showing up consistently over time. And
Yeah,
it's not usually not easy to manage other people. It's not easy to manage a household. So you will burn yourself out messing around, not taking care of yourself. And part of it is
Mhm.
addressing some of the shortcomings that you may see time and time again, or the universe shows up in different ways where you're like, oh, this is reflecting back to me, and what do I need to do about it? And you just
Yeah,
have to find the best way. Some people go to therapy, other people have a workout routine, other people journal. It's finding the best avenue for you
for
to
you.
unpack some of those things that you're struggling with. And it's a process, and not think that, just like you trying to lose a couple pounds, it's not going to happen overnight. You have to be patient with yourself. But it's really understanding it's a process, and but it's also very important to be aware of when it does pop up, because sometimes it's unexpected.
I love that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Carolyn, I'll let you jump in.
For me, that's why emotional intelligence is like my foundational leadership pillar. um and it is a lifelong journey, and I think we have to accept that,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to, when I deal with this and I heal that layer, there's another
Hmm.
layer. And that's okay, because if I don't identify that, then I'm finding myself projecting.
Hmm.
100%.
If I don't identify that, now, like you said, I'm taking on all these different things because I don't have boundaries, because
Yes.
I'm people pleasing,
Yes.
and now I'm burned out.
Yes.
And so it is essential, I think you made a point earlier, Dr. Dale, we have to first lead ourselves before you can lead others. You can't take anyone anywhere you haven't gone yourself.
Ooh, and I was gonna say that. I was thinking that. I'm telling you, the energies are high up here. You cannot consistently create an emotional safety net for others if you have never learned to create it for yourself.
True
Yeah.
indeed.
Hands down. Dr. Chayla, I was asking if you wanted to share anything from the last conversation that we were having when we were talking
No,
about
keep going, keep
no.
going. Sorry, my internet. I'm glad to be back. I concur with everything they said. I just they said it so beautifully. Whatever they said, I know it was
It
beautiful.
was
I mean,
so
just
like
beautiful.
exactly, exactly. You have to do the work yourself. You have to do the work
Hmm.
yourself, right? And
Yeah.
imagine trying to tell someone that you need to listen when you don't
But they're
listen.
not listening. Oh my
But
goodness.
you're not listening.
I've seen it
You're
so many
cutting me off.
times. The
You're
projection.
making your point.
Ooh, the
Yeah.
projection and deflection. And you're just like, oh,
Right.
when you can identify that, you're just like, and look at
And the
this. Ooh, it's
gaslighting.
especially in the work
Oh,
environment, out of control. Out of control.
Ooh,
I always
I
like to see it in email threads. You're like, ooh, it's like tea. You're just like, look at that. Yeah.
I heard something recently where I told the person, I said, listen, I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to go back with you. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just passionate.
Yeah.
Okay.
oh, that's what
Hmm.
we're calling it now. Oh, that's what
Hmm.
it is now. I mean,
It's just passion.
yikes.
And they weren't listening either. And that was one of the fine. I said, you know what? I don't feel heard.
Yeah, yeah. I remember when I first time became a manager and I had to, we were around the table because I at least wanted to hear what they had to say. And I wanted to do a project and I wanted to hear my team members, their thoughts on it. And I already knew the answer on how we were going to do, but I wanted to hear if they had anything better. And when I finally shared mine and everybody agreed, yeah, 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 let's do that. Someone raised their hand from the back and they said an idea that was much better than mine. And when I heard that, everybody, I looked around and I saw everybody's face, and everybody's like, "Yeah, that's better." You think you think I like that?
Right. Right.
Like my ego kicked in quick. I did not like it, and I couldn't figure out. I was like, why? If for business and department, from a money standpoint, it's better. Why am I? Why do I have an issue with it? Because it's not my idea,
Mm.
Yep.
right? And I
Hmm.
felt like I was gonna lose respect or whatever. Thank God I had a mentor, someone, and I told this is that why don't you like their idea? Isn't it more about what something that some as it relates to your problem than their when it's better for the department? And I didn't like how they said that, and I had to sit with that. And of course, I came
Hmm.
back the next day and we did what their idea. But that was a wake up moment for me because there was no reason why I couldn't go along with theirs. It
You
just,
can accept their idea.
yeah.
Hmm.
So I had to sit with that. So you as a leaders out there, things like that happen. Don't ignore it. It's your internal feelings, your emotions. Their messages, they're letting you know that you feel some type of way about something, and it's not, we like to lash out and kind of make it other people's problem, when in reality it's you need to sit with yourself and figure out why do you have a
Yeah, what
problem with
triggered
that
you?
person or what they said, you know.
Yeah.
True. True indeed.
And even as we were speaking, you said something earlier, Sasheen, about respecting, our children as we shift this into parenting. Sometimes, we're just overriding our children and we're not considering their perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, and this came up for me with the last statement I said when I told the person I didn't feel
Yeah.
heard. Sometimes our children don't feel heard.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't
Yes.
feel heard, I don't feel seen, I don't feel valued.
That's right.
And that creates resentment.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Very
Yes.
much
I
so.
think that just like children do that, then they're gonna express that in some sort of way. Maybe that's a kid that's throwing a tantrum. Maybe they're pouting. Maybe they're on the
Right.
floor. But people do that in adulthood too, right? You gotta
Oh my
recognize on your
gosh.
team when they're
Yes, ma'am.
pouting.
I,
All these
yep.
behaviors they've learned from when they were younger. If they did not feel
It
seen,
Absolutely.
heard,
doesn't
or valued,
actually
that's
change.
exactly what they're gonna do. That doesn't
I,
change.
I,
Then they
Rebellion
get
at
really
2
silent. They give me
looks a
silence
whole lot
treatment. I
different at
don't want to talk to
22.
nobody.
yep.
What did you say,
I'm
Sarah?
actually calling it.
I just said rebellion at 2 looks a whole lot different at
I'm actually
22.
calling it
Ooh,
adult
yes.
tantrums now. I'm actually like, that has been swimming in my head. I was like, oh, they're having an adult tantrum. And so and
Adult
the
tantrum.
crash out, right? And
Yeah.
you're going, is it valid or not? And then you
Mm.
look at it, when you really
Yeah.
look at the behavior, it does mimic, some adolescent moment or some child
Yeah.
moment. It's
Yeah.
interesting, but
Yeah.
they're full on adults. Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. Next section, empathy versus bitterness. Mm. Pain can take on very different points, very different directions. Some people become softer after they go through a struggle, others become harder, right? Some people are more empathetic and understanding, some people become bitter, right? And
Mm-hmm.
emotional intelligence leadership often comes down to this: what did you do with that pain? What did you learn from that pain? So my question to you is, how do you stop pain from turning into bitterness?
Hmm. That's a good question. It's a really
Right?
good question. I think for myself, I take a lot of time to process. I take a lot of time to process kind of what happened. Sometimes I overanalyze it, but I get to a conclusion of what did I learn from it?
Yeah.
How, and if I do have to respond to it, what do I need to do to respond to kind of have a final resolution where there is no bitterness or resentment. I've done,
Mhm.
like, if I have to course correct or leave a relationship or change something, it's because I've taken enough time to reflect and be like, okay, this is where this is for me, and exercise
Yeah.
my own self boundaries and not
Mm-hmm.
allow it to fester. And I think that that's an important
Mm.
thing, recognizing that it shouldn't be running rent free in your head forever. And again, this
Ooh.
is where resources, like, what else do you need to do if you're sitting with it and it's not working? There's other resources, like I said, therapy, exercise, different things of self-care, that
Yeah.
you'll get to the root of it at some point. But you don't want to end up like a bitter person, because if that turns into bitterness, that can be poison. That can definitely be
Mm.
poison.
Absolutely.
And I think whatever you
Um,
meditate on is going to expand. It's going to whatever
Mm.
you can. If you continue to fester, like for me, sometimes if I'm upset, I'm like, dude, you're gonna get to tell only 3 people this. The next time you tell it, you're gonna have the same. You're like, no, I'm reversing this. I want to do what Shashina's
Yeah.
talking about. Do
yeah.
the work for myself to see, like, what could I have done
Yeah.
differently? What role did I play? Like, stop playing the victim. Okay, what did you allow? What
Yeah.
boundary did you
Mm.
allow that person to cross that you shouldn't have? And
Absolutely.
really, the hardest part is self betrayal, because when
Woo.
you were speaking, it was saying, don't do that, don't go there, don't talk to that person, don't open up. Listen, they're not trustworthy, and you did not listen, and now you're
Red
mad at them.
flags.
You'll be
Yep.
mad at those.
Yep.
Yeah, you ran through all the red flags. You're like, no, it can't be red. It's kind of
You were
pink.
high
It's
5 in
I
them.
want
Yeah.
red.
It's
No,
pink.
no,
Yeah,
no. That was red. It was red, and you kept going, and now you upset. Well, don't be with them. Okay, what am I going to do differently next time so that
exactly.
this doesn't get
Absolutely.
repeated? I tell my daughter all the time. Okay, you can, what's it? They say one mistake, shame on me, but shame on you. But the second one, shame on me. Like
Second
I,
take shame
Mhm.
on me. Yeah,
yeah, like
Mhm.
I got to do something differently if I want a different result. And so I think that was one of the
Mm,
things that played in my head. Stop seeing yourself as the victim and see yourself as the
mm.
victor. Because I'm going to conquer this so that it doesn't happen again.
happen again.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I told you all last time my favorite quote, Nelson Mandela: "I never lose. I
Win.
either win or
Yeah.
learn."
Yep.
So I'm gonna pick up from that, and I'm gonna learn. Um, and I am going to
Mm,
self-examine, even when it's blatant that perhaps the person has, offended me. But for me, um, forgiveness. I'm going to choose, and that means I'm going to choose to make that decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I may still feel yucky
yeah.
inside. I still may not trust you, but I got to make that decision because for me, I don't like the emotional charge of feeling, you know, that bitterness. I don't want to even go there. It's very uncomfortable. I know none of us really want to be in that
Right.
space. It's a very uncomfortable space to be in when you're disappointed with somebody, when you're angry,
Yeah.
when when there's hatred erupting. That doesn't feel
No.
good. So for me, I'm gonna cut it off at the head and I'm gonna go to God. I'm gonna say, I'm choosing and I need your help
Yeah.
because this doesn't feel good. And that's what I have found that has, been successful for me, even with myself. That whole piece about self forgiveness. It took me a year one time to forgive myself
No.
about
Yeah. I
something.
mean,
Mhm.
imagine all the other stuff people are sitting with that happened to them years and years ago in the workplace or at home in whatever relationship
Yeah,
that they're still carrying today, and they think that they're free from it, but they're not. Because if you
Mhm.
were
and the
free
thing,
from it, you would be acting, you would be free like a free person. You would still go into
yeah,
Absolutely.
that comfort conversation, and I guess
with
depending on
joy,
what it is, right? Because
Mhm.
depending on
mhm,
the trauma, right, depending on what it is.
for
Yeah,
sure.
because for everybody's different, right, and everybody has to go through.
Yeah, and there are levels, like you say, of
Exactly,
trauma
exactly.
too, that you might need therapy or support. And that thing
Ooh,
layers. When you carry that baggage of unforgiveness here, it's easier to not to forgive the next person.
Mhm.
And
mm,
then because now it's become a
Oh,
pattern.
mm-hmm.
yeah, just of what you do or how you move or because if it again, it's a root cause thing. So at the root of it, it sits and then it starts to, fly out in all different directions if there's no self-awareness about it, especially.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right. I give you a quick example, and I say this all the time. My husband and my mom are my greatest teachers, right? Lifelong teachers. And my husband was telling me, sharing something with me, and he was telling me, you always do this, and before I would tune him out when he would say that line, and you every time you this happens, this is what you do, and I would just tune him out. But now I when he says it, and he was saying something the other day, and my body was not, is you got to pay attention to your body as well, right? Because you're responding in a way. So when he was saying it, my body was telling me, shut it down. It was Dr. Taylor. My hand was like in one hand because we were driving, one because I was in passenger, and my one hand was like, "Ugh, I don't want to sit and listen to this. I don't want to hear this. Shut him up. Let's put on the
Mhm.
music. Let's just. I don't want to." And then my other side of me, my other emotionally intelligent brain was like, lean into it. Maybe the road he's going down is not the road you think it is. And I said, it's definitely the road I don't want to go down. But then 10, 15, because when he talks about something, he goes on, and I'll be like, all right, I get it. But afterwards, I realized what the road he was going on was nowhere near what I had thought in my brain. Because we make up stories in our head, right? And you're like, all right, let me shut this down.
Yeah.
This sounds like this kind of stuff I don't like to talk about. But he went down a road that I didn't know, and I learned something new about where he
Mhm.
was going and what he was talking about and how I felt in that moment. And so that's an example for me. I have evolved, I have changed when it comes to that stuff. So now I lean in a little bit more.
That was good. Good. No, that happens.
That's
I've caught myself doing that. I tend to try to stay curious, especially if it's in conversation,
yeah,
right? I still
Yeah.
try to stay curious about what the person's saying and
Mm-mm.
address it.
My body was
yeah,
saying, yeah, my mind was saying, the educated brain was saying, stay curious, but my body was saying, nope, you don't want to hear nothing about that.
yeah. One of my little taglines is remain curious, not critical.
That's a good
Mm,
one.
And especially in the workplace, well, at home as well, but in a leadership space, right?
yeah,
Remain curious, not
I
critical.
love that. I love that.
And so when you're even approaching something, when you're approaching conflict, approach it in a tone of curiosity
Yeah,
as you drill in
right,
versus, critical or accusatory.
right.
Hmm.
And that is very
Or
effective.
Agreed.
judgmental. Or judgmental.
Agreed. And the thing about it is that some people, there are people out there, and that they don't have the right words, right? So they're saying it in a way they could have said it better, but then you still have
Yeah.
to lean in, and it's like, oh, okay, if they're respecting you and putting you down and being derogatory, that's different, right? But if they're being very direct, and you're like, oh, why? Can you like calm down? Like I like they
They're
could use better
passionate.
language, right? But if they don't have the language, you have to still be curious enough to lean into that,
Hmm.
and then know that
Yeah,
this
that's
person,
good.
especially if you know, like, and trust them, is coming from a place of love no matter what,
That's
right?
true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not always easy.
No,
That's
it's
not
not.
always easy.
Mm-mm.
That's not always easy. Okay, so how has empathy changed the way you guys parent or lead?
Mm. Would consider myself a pretty empathetic person to begin with.
Mm,
So it's hard to not think that way, I guess.
mhm.
So it was just more heightened as I became a mother, um, being empathetic, being understanding, trying to give the leeway, trying to be in a space of, again, not judgment, being curious,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
having where's the boundaries around that, where I'm trying to protect this child from a danger versus, okay, this is something that,
Right.
may not should not have happened this way, but let's figure it out.
Right.
And I try to navigate in those waters when it comes down to parenting.
I would say because I think Sasheen and Dr. Taylor, you all have younger children. I have adult children, and that becomes a bit more of a challenge
Yeah.
when they are adults because I poured all this wonderful wisdom and virtue into you, and now you've made a different
Yes.
decision that I'm not comfortable with. And so again, empathy has to definitely be exercised. And I lost my train of thought. Go, Dr. Taylor. It's gonna come back if there was a comment that you wanted to make.
It's the question was, how has empathy changed how
The
you parent or lead? Yeah. Go ahead, Trayla.
And oh, I thought she was gonna finish because she was talking about her adult children, how it being different from younger children.
Hmm.
You're like, okay,
And so empathy at its foundation, it just came back, is putting yourself in that other person's
Mm-hmm.
shoes.
Hmm.
And so having adult children, you have to remember, hey, you were once there as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
And so you all will continue to develop that parental empathy as they
As they grow,
mature. Trust
as
me,
they grow.
as they mature. Hmm.
I think for me, one of the things that I've been very conscious of, like Sasheen, I feel like empathy is something that's just that's what I feel. That's a part of my makeup. But I
Yeah.
think for my daughter, I understand that she has privilege. And so it's been
Mm,
very important for me for her to understand that there are other people that may not have that privilege, and to increase her empathy, increase her gratitude, and to not just take
Yeah.
things for granted. Because everybody, my daughter was having a conversation with her friend, and her friend was saying, my mom's an event planner, and she's at a wedding. And she asked my daughter, she's 7. She asked her, "Do you know what a reception is?" And my daughter said, "Of course I know what a reception is." And she said, "What's a reception?" They're 7-year-olds quizzing each other. And my daughter said, "A reception is when you go to the hotel where you check in to get your." That's where you go get your key and you get, your other benefits. You can go. And I was start laughing because in my head, because we've traveled a lot. For her reception,
That's what she
she's
was
not
supposed
relating
to.
it to a wedding and it's a
Right.
party.
Right.
You know what I
The
mean?
reception desk is
A
where I get the
reception
key to
Right.
the
desk. I get
spa.
the key to go to the hotel. That we got nice, spa. We got other
Got
things,
the
and
pool,
that's
Right.
the
the
pool,
I get the
towels.
pool cue.
the
Yeah.
pool
Yeah.
towels. In her
Hmm.
mind, she came back when she knew what a reception was, and so I think it's really
You know what this
important.
is.
And I thought about. I said that is her perspective, right? Like
Hmm.
Right.
this is from where she is, but it's really important. My daughter has a heart for homeless people. And actually, we just
Mm.
came back from a trip and we had to gas up. And there was a single mom outside with a little boy that was the same age as my daughter. And she was like, Mom, can't we give her something? Like, she said, can't she just come to the hotel with us? Now, we about 3 hours from our hotel. Can't we just put these people in the car with us and just give them to the hotel, Mom? He's a little boy like me, right? And I was like, no, we can't just put these people. It can't just be kidnapping people. That is a crime. But well, so we went inside and we
Because of your
bought
empathy.
food.
Hmm.
Right, right. But she, in her mind, every homeless person she passes, she think we need to give them money. And I had to start explaining to her a little bit about like people's life decisions. Like everybody, we gonna be broke. We ain't got enough money to give everybody that we pass money.
Right.
But she has a
Right.
heart for homeless people. When she says grace over her food, she always bless the homeless people. No, she Dale. She always is like has a heart for them. And so I'm like, I feel very proud of that because I'm like, she understands that there are people that have less than what she has, and
Hmm.
she wants to be a part of the solution and helping their lives to be better.
That's
I
awesome.
love
That's
that.
awesome.
I love that.
Yes.
I think of the world, in my opinion, from what I observe, if the world had a lot more empathy,
Oh, yeah.
the world,
It would be a lot better. It would be a lot
yeah,
better if people
yeah,
exercised empathy. Hmm.
yeah. And not be so quick to judge
Well, we're
or
so
cross
quick to
people
judge,
out
you
or
know?
strike them, judge
Quick
and
to
push them
judge.
aside.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
sometimes I think a lot as well from what I observe and what I've experienced, people use one experience or one example what someone did to them and let that be across the board that this person I never want to deal with. It depends
That's the
on what it is
standard.
as well,
Mhm.
right? And it just you quick to write someone off. And if the roles were reversed and you had a bad moment,
Hmm.
you would want someone to maybe give you another opportunity to kind of, fix that thing or do that thing, you know?
Right. Extending grace. That's a
Yeah,
huge part. Just,
yeah,
exercising grace where it applies, I think is a huge thing to consider.
a hundred
But I
percent. You
think
guys,
going back to what you were saying about people, the leaders, I think people that are extremely insecure that have not dealt with those issues, then they're going to
mm,
be extra critical of other people because they're using that as a deflection, right? I'm going to
a
make
Right.
hundred percent
myself
Yeah.
feel better. I'm going to put myself up, I'm going to pump
on a
myself up to be
pedestal.
better than I am. I'm
Yeah,
better than those people
Right.
because really I'm not, I don't feel like it. And I think the other thing I was going to say earlier that came back to me was that when something hurts or is offensive in that case, you got like there is a little bit of truth to that. You know what I mean? When you were
mm,
saying like I wanted my body, it's like okay, maybe all of that. I wouldn't say, but you got to eat that fish and spit out them bones. There's some of that
Hmm.
that you must have felt some of that
Where
on
there's fire,
yourself.
there's smoke.
and
Yes,
I
True.
did.
absolutely.
True.
I was proud of
Did I say that
myself when
right?
I
Where there's
did it.
smoke, there's
Smoke
Yes,
and
fire.
fire.
Dana.
Yeah, yeah. But I think that that's really, really, really true.
100%. Oh my goodness, 120th%. 100%. Today's conversation reminded us that leadership isn't is one of the most vulnerable forms of being human, right? Because when you're a leader
That's
of
good.
people, you're a leader of yourself, and it's not all about just giving direction and holding people accountable and protection and discipline and responsibility. It's also about healing. It's also about empathy, self-awareness, emotional regulation, right? And intentional love. My goodness, a little bit of love goes on. This is the word. Love makes the world go around. It makes the world go around. So I have one last question. You guys see? Look, the time is
I
gone.
know. I know.
One like
Wow,
one. The time is gone.
we
We've
were
been having
just
so
getting
much fun. So
started.
much. We've been having so much fun. So I want to know, instead of your favorite quote, I want to know who is who is someone that you look up to, and give me one word as to why. One word, I'll even accept one sentence. Someone that has inspired you as a leader, as a mother, and you look up to that person, and it's because of this, Dr. Dale. One sentence, because we are short on
Oh,
time.
that's hard.
I know there's so many
Mhm.
people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I have an aunt that I look up to, and I love her to death because she really does such an amazing job of reminding us of be present.
Mm,
And that's something that, even though there's so much that happens in the past and in the future, making sure you enjoy the present. And as a result of that being such a heavy reminder, I'm sorry, no, this one sentence.
yeah.
It's you can enjoy those mundane moments where nothing's going on
Mm,
and really sit in that and relish in it because you just never know all the
yeah.
chaos that we live in, right?
You
So
don't have to
that's
always be doing, doing, doing,
yeah,
doing. You can just
exactly.
just be.
Mhm. Mhm.
I love that. Terilyn, Dr. Chayla.
We're stepping in dangerous territory, Dr. Dale, because when you exalt one person and it's like, well, what, I didn't contribute anything to you. But
Well, just one person. I said you only can do. I mean, we don't have all year.
you understand,
Okay.
I would have to share, and I'm gonna actually send her this clip and let her know personally, but her name is Lisa Gilbert. And the thing that I admire about her as a leader is her ability to stay very close to the word of God and
Mm,
practicalize the leadership experience.
I love that.
And I watched her balance both, and I just admire that in her.
I love that. So, Sheen, what is your aunt's name? If you
Ah,
don't mind sharing.
oh, I don't know if she mind sharing, so that's why I didn't say her name
Okay.
because
Okay.
I don't know
Okay.
that.
Okay.
My
Dr.
family's
Chayla,
sensitive.
sensitive. Yeah. Yeah. I understand. You're good.
I'm thinking about all these people. Okay, so I would pick. Can I pick like two, like my mama and my grandmama equally? I mean, they come from the same. They two
They
birds.
really are one.
You
One came
already
from the
said it.
other
You
one.
know, Chayla.
Can I please?
It's a legacy. It's all the same.
That's
Yeah, I
right.
feel you on
But she
that.
can't pick one. She can't pick one.
It's the lineage. It's the
Okay.
Oh
ancestry.
my
Okay,
gosh,
Okay.
can I
that's
just
too
okay? So
funny.
we can do that. So, technicality. I should have been a lawyer. Anyways, I would say my grandmother because my grandmother had a second grade education and she went through atrocities in her life. Born in 1923 in the South, that I could never ever like. When I think about like how hard life is, and I was like, "Ooh, this is so hard," and I'm like, "Wait, y'all was washing clothes on a on
Right.
this little
Board.
washboard, and y'all,
Yeah.
yeah, my grandma
Mhm.
used to love to wash clothes. I mean, and like she would have such a joy despite her circumstances, despite how she was treated. Being married off at 15. I mean, just it was just my grandmother would say you could be kind to a dog. You know what I mean? Like so she said you can speak to a dog. You don't have to, treat people nice despite like, lynchings and all the things that they went through along with my
Yeah.
mom. And just thinking the resilience factor of my mom, just the things that she's gone through in her life, the sacrifice she's made to get us to this point. I would say, it is inspirational, the things that she's overcome. And I know I said more than one sentence and I broke all the rules, but I,
Right.
I got to
I
say
did
it for my
too.
mama and my grandma.
I love you, Mama.
I love you. I feel like we should sing a song.
I
Yeah.
love all of that. Thank you. Thank you all. The emotional climate that we create today with everything that we have said and what you guys have been in this conversation, it becomes the blueprint for others tomorrow, what they're going to see, what they're going to carry. So continuing to heal and to grow, and to Terrell's point, to emotional intelligence is always going to be, you're never only going to arrive, right? You're always growing and changing and becoming, and healing and reflecting and apologizing and growing, like all the things that Sasheen and Dr. Chayla had mentioned. It's not about being perfect, it's simply about being human. And I just love that you all have stopped to have this conversation with me, because motherhood is so many things, but you're also human. right?
True
And you
indeed.
all have exemplified that. You guys exemplify that in your personal life, in your professional life. And I just loved it, which is why I asked you all to be on this conversation with me. And thank you. I am better for it.
Well, thank you. This has been a delight.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Where's part
This is
three?
great.
I know.
She said, "Part three."
That's
She got
been a
more to
conversation.
say.
What'd you say, Dr. Taylor?
I said she got more to say. She like, hold on, and another thing. Hold on. She gonna be on
And
these
that's
coaching calls with her consultant. She's like, oh no, we gotta do a part three. I gotta tell people.
uh, we'll see you guys in the next episode. This has been a glimpse of growth with Dr. Dale and these amazing, lovely ladies. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Later.